before we even get started, I have this new exciting basketball mini hoop as part of
I
a
did.
background that I
I
could
did
set
see
up.
that.
So it's thrilling. We've got
Nice.
sports available all over the shop here. John's got the pool room. I've got the basketball backboard.
Does that come in like a suction cup for a wall, or you've got to hook it on something?
Not really. It's actually really badly designed. Look at this. It's got this huge bit at the back. So if you try and
Wow.
hang it, it actually kind of sits at this kind of angle.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
it was $5. So not expecting
okay.
a lot, but yeah. So that's something to work on.
They've achieved that
Yeah.
then.
So you could go out on a limb and just see how many like really interesting, completely inappropriate places could you find to hang it in the house and still be able to get a basketball through the hoop.
Well, that's the kind of magical learning we like to think about here on Magical Learning. And actually, everybody, I think I'm going to keep that in, and that'll just be a rolling cold intro to the Magical Learning podcast, which you are now listening to. Welcome to the Magical Learning podcast where we like to look at important topics in business and life and look at them in a fun and exciting way. And I think like today we've got a really fun topic, and that has already been predetermined, which is unusual for a concept sandbox, but we'll get to that shortly. But before we do that, we've also got a sound effect that may be played throughout today's podcast. So keep your ears peeled for that. The final thing that I forgot to mention is that we are a company that's been running for over 25 years, and we've worked with people like John Mattone and Robin Sharma. So we love to share knowledge. We love to do it in a fun way. Today we're going to be doing that. Before we get into any of that, let's jump in and check in on the team and see how they're going. So Graham, CEO, what's going on?
Well, happy Friday for those of you who happen to be watching or listening to this on a Friday. And if it's not a Friday when you're watching or listening to it, then what are you doing with your life? I should, is it too soon, Tess, to lead into? I should also wish everybody a happy International Talk Like a Pirate Day. I got a phone call from a friend this morning to remind me that it was that day. And sadly, both of us, in attempting to do the right thing, ended up sounding like Australians speaking with a Scottish accent. So, yeah, I'm well, happy to be here. Good to see you both. Good to see everybody else. G'day.
All right. Well, John, that's keeping people, I'm sure, in a lot of suspense. So stay tuned for what that means. John, facilitator extraordinaire, how are you going?
Oh, look, I'm great, Jez. I just don't care at this point in time. So it's just been, I've come to the end of the week and I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's all good.
Great. Well, I think we've given away some little production secrets here because this will be being released on a Monday and not on Talk Like a Pirate Day. But this is going to be the unofficial Magical Learning Friday, Monday Talk Like a Pirate Day. So if you are listening to this, you are welcome to Talk Like a Pirate. And speaking of, we've been talking about pirates. We're talking about pirates a lot. John alluded to it earlier. Graham, I think there's no better way to use the sound effect than, can you please tell us what, for our concept sandbox, what is our sort of setting going to be?
Did not see or hear that coming, but it gave me time to actually unmute myself. And is this rising or am I sinking?
Yes.
Yeah. And why did that moron get to put some eye holes into it before he stuck it on us? That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked. So,
But leave it there. It's a look.
I ran out of time to find a bit of elastic or something, make it like a stick-on. I've probably got some super glue somewhere. I could do that during a break if we have a break.
Staples. You got a stapler?
Sorry, John. Say again.
You got a stapler?
It's the cheapest facelift available.
There are times and days when I would actually do that, and then wish that I. So the concept sandbox, Davy Jones locker.
Let's do it. Davy Jones's
Either
locker.
that. Do we want to get in there? Maybe cite everything on the Black Pearl.
Great. Okay, I think that's great. Let's do the Black Pearl. And just in case people aren't watching and we didn't actually specify, this is Pirates of the Caribbean. Those watching, it's very obvious. Graham had an amazing mask that if you're listening, definitely recommend going and checking out those. And there it is again for those watching, if you were just listening to that part. But so today we're going to be setting on the Black Pearl, and the The concept of sandbox is an idea where there's business problems in any kind of business, and some of those can be a problem no matter what type of industry you're in. And so we thought, why not have a bit of fun with this idea and set it on a fantastical sort of setting and sort of bring some of our different ideas to this problem. But we're going to be pairing that with a conversation about role models, which seems unrelated, but we're hopefully going to be linking it all together in this beautiful concept sandbox. Hopefully we'll be making a sandcastle and not some sort of horrific mess. Fingers crossed for all of us. So today we're going to be looking at the Black Pearl, and the business problem that I've brought today is that this is now being set in let's say the 1930s, and there's just more flights taking over. So there's less ships to plunder. Okay, so the market's just become a bit weaker due to some technology. So Black Pearl's wondering, how do we expand and sort of think about our operations here? So we'll be setting that on the Black Pearl. But before we get to any of that, we'll have that kind of cooking away in the back. But I think, Graham, did you want to kick us off on the concept of role models here? What does that bring to you?
A general state of anxiety, Jez, I think. Thanks for asking. Now that I'm on the spot, having foolishly gone with this idea. I just one thing that actually came to mind earlier, which is sort of relevant in that, and I haven't done any research, but my understanding of how Johnny Depp thought about and portrayed the character of Jack Sparrow in the franchise Pirates of the Caribbean. His role model for much of his character was Keith Richards from the Strolling Bones or the Rolling Stones. I apologise for those who are medically offended, but it is Friday, and if I don't offend somebody before we finish, then I haven't done my job. So conceptually, if we sort of take this back to the business problem of our market is shrinking, we're running out of ships to plunder because new transports come around and it's faster and maybe more cost effective. It's a lot harder to, not impossible, but it is a lot harder to plunder an airplane in mid-flight. Batman could probably do it, maybe, but most of us couldn't. So one of the opportunities for us when we think about role models, this concept sandbox of, we're just a nice bunch of people. I mean, we're pirates, but we don't generally just go around killing people. We just want stuff, hopefully for nothing. And we like talking in a weird way, and we stick to the code. Keep to the code, it's important. But if our market is shrinking, one of the things we could do is look outside of our market. And particularly outside our business, and think about, well, who are some of the people out there in the world that we could use as role models? The Johnny Depp or Jack Sparrow, Keith Richards thing. One of the interesting things about that was, again, as my understanding of it is, it was an uncommon. It's not uncommon. So it wasn't like Johnny Depp went to Keith Richards and said, can I just borrow all of your mannerisms to use for this character? He just, watched Keith Richards perform, watched him live and thought, well, there's some great, mannerisms, etc. in there that I could use. So who else do we know? Who else could we start to connect with or to stalk in a respectful way, folks? Yeah, who could we connect with online maybe that could end up being a good role model, and that will give us some ideas on how we can adapt our business to either make our services more attractive to our current market or to find a new market.
Yeah, actually, I think, Graham, you've inspired something in me here. Why not blend some of the things you're talking about there? And there's a genre of music called pirate rock. But imagine if that was performed by actual pirates. Like, this is like they could be called the Black Pearl, and they go on tour and they're like, we are literally former pirates that are now a rock group. It doesn't get much more hardcore than that.
And then, because I instantly go to The Boat That Rocked, the movie, thinking about the soundtrack. But what a great idea. Yeah. So could we pivot as a business on the Black Pearl and literally become The Boat That Rocks?
Not bad.
John,
do you have the musicians?
I think.
But do you have the talent within the current crew to be able to become that band to go on the road and then diversify your portfolio? So rather than being a pirate, you become that musician too. And part of in listening to your talk, Graham, sort of sitting there thinking, okay, the thing that kept coming to mind was nothing fails like success. So, you know, Jack Sparrow and all of those at the top of their game, they don't last long because they don't diversify. They don't look what's over the horizon because the world's flat, obviously. And so it's really then you've got to look over that horizon to go, okay, well, what's next? How do I do more? If our market is shrinking, I'm going to need a better crew, a faster ship to be able to plunder the next ship that comes along, and constantly upgrading to do that. But then it's okay. Well, what's the opportunity elsewhere? And whether it be, the crew then goes into it, become musicians, and I was going to say on the straight and narrow, but I think some of those musicians are more crooked than anyone. Well, Keith Richards, how the hell is he still alive? Really?
He keeps to
The
his
guy's
own.
had more drugs in him than he did in the cancer.
Well,
But it's what's over the horizon, what's new, and who do we need to look for in those markets to actually set our mark against, to point the compass at, because it's the compass only works with Jack Sparrow when it's something he wants. So he's going to have to come up with who is my role model, or who am I going to emulate in whatever it is that we're going ahead with to work out how to plot the course to get there.
Well, maybe as pirates they could emulate Dr. Hook.
Yes, they could. And he never had a hook.
Oh,
That was really disappointing.
Oh wow, that was a very delayed sound effect.
it was worse, but maybe you could fix that.
I think so.
Pause it. Stop. Let's stop now.
Might emulate Captain Crunch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. Look, we're going to work the drum kit out too much here, everybody. Let's. We've gone mad with power with the soundboard. So just talking about role models, I wanted to take this in a slightly different direction. First of all, I think a good role model for all Aussies at the moment, this will be old news by the time you're listening to this, but exciting news because it got announced today, is that an Australian called Alana Smith won Defensive Player of the Year in the WNBA today, which is a very exciting thing. So good on her. And that's great for the Australian basketball team. So great role model there from Hobart. So we love that. But anyway, the thing that I actually wanted to talk about today was the concept of people saying never meet your heroes, or, never meet your role models. And I thought that's an interesting concept because to me, what it makes me think of is that maybe the idea of a role model should be someone who fills a certain role in the same way that a role player might fill a certain role in a team. So perhaps you're not inspired by everything they do, but just a certain section. And when you start going beyond that sort of scope, and that might be meeting them and interacting with them, they may have less of a sort of role modelish presence because really you're only inspired by a small sliver of who they are in a way. So I was wondering if maybe another way to think about role models that might be different than how people think about them at the moment is just that maybe it's just a more specified thing, like this person's my role model for this specific thing, and then this person's my role model for this other specific thing. And then in that way, we all are kind of this weird sandwich of bizarre role models. Anyway, so that's a concept I was thinking about. So maybe, I guess, in that concept, maybe they can all put their heads together as a crew and start thinking about who are our different role models for different things. And maybe they can start using that to sort of sculpt a new brand, kind of like what you were talking about before, or how we were talking about with a band. Maybe that there'll be some other common influences that they all have that they didn't know, and they go, actually, maybe this is sort of a pathway we all head down. So anyway, that's my thoughts on role models today.
But I think you're right, though, Jez, that we do have role models that we look at for a specific thing, but then we sort of step beyond that and go, they're just a wonderful person, they're fantastic, and you've never met these people. And once you find out that they're actually a flawed human being like the rest of us, I think most role models start out for something specific.
Yeah, I love the idea. It makes a lot of sense that we'd potentially have different role models depending on which aspect of ourselves we want to grow. If there's, to go back to the pirate rock .org, love it, analogy thing. If I'm mate on the Black Pearl and I decide that I want to be a drummer, I'm unlikely, hopefully, to use Keith Richards as my primary role model.
Hmm.
So I guess,
Yeah.
and there's an aspect of sort of mentorship there that there's a saying that's been around for a long time that if you want to become good at something, then study the best. Spend more time with people who are great at it. Don't spend more time with people who are average at it, because that's only going to keep you, sort of at that level. So, and if we take that back to the business problem of our market is shrinking, what are we going to do? Then I guess part of the conversations within on board the Black Pearl is hopefully part of it goes back to, well, why are we pirates? Why are we doing this? And then using that as a lens to look sort of different opportunities. Part of it is looking at what are the skills that we need in order to be able to pivot, or in order to be able to succeed better than we currently are, and how we're going to build those skills, and who are the role models out there that we could perhaps either use as direct mentors, or we could model part of our role on board based on whoever that person is.
And again, building on that if you look at the crew of the or some of the crew of the Black Pearl, I mean, Captain Jack Sparrow, he might be a very good pirate, but he was always a very self-centered character, and it was about him. Whereas, he had Gibbs, who was his first mate, who was more able to work with the crew, and believed in the crew and had the crew at heart. So you wouldn't go to Sparrow for things about, relationships with team members, for instance. But then you do need a different set of eyes, because there's a scene in one of how many movies are there? 33, 34? Yeah.
Two
but
less
there's
than in
one,
the Rocky series.
yeah, right. And Rambo. Yeah. But there's a scene where they're on the Black Pearl trying to escape whoever they're trying to escape. I can't remember who. But Elizabeth Swan comes up with the idea of throw out the anchor and, head towards the shoals and, blah, blah, blah. So you need key people that you're going to rely on for different things. You can't be everything to everyone. And as such, your role model, having an individual role model for everything in your life, doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, love that, John. Yeah, so it's really making me think, like, there's a lot of actually options for the Black Pearl here. The more that we're talking about it, the more I'm like, this is actually a great business pivot opportunity to get out of the black market and into a more commercial market if they want. Yeah, interesting. John, did you have anything else that you wanted to share sort of around the concept of role models today?
Look, I think our role models change as we grow, as we develop. I mean, I was thinking of role models that I had back as a kid, and I never labelled them role models, but they were people that I looked up to for certain things, and a lot of them were around sporting people. But then, they get older and they don't play anymore, and then you move to the next one or the next one, and then for business you look at something else, and for relationships you look at someone else. And yeah, it's the use of role models is a constant changing thing, or has been for me in my life, constantly changing and evolving depending on what I'm trying to get out of it at that time, or what aspect of my life I'm looking at. So yeah, don't get stuck on this is my role model and I've got to be exactly like them, because yeah, if you're going to be like Keith Richards, I don't think anyone will live that long.
Yeah, no, I love that, John, and I think that that's a great insight. Perhaps if they talk to some of the younger members of the crew, perhaps there's some fresher faces they haven't seen around that could give them some new ideas. And yeah, I love that. Great thinking. Graham, did you have anything to say there?
There's so much in some of that. So I was trying to find a think of a business to beside the Black Pearl from a comparative point of view, because part of one of John's comments about having Gibbs as a first mate and Gibbs is all about keep to the code. So, in a manner of speaking, he is the part of the business that keeps everybody focused on what's important, structure and order and, respect, et cetera, et cetera. And I sort of started going down to Johnny Depp Captain Jack Sparrow. I'll leave JD out of it. So Jack Sparrow is a little, maybe, I know we'll probably offend people, but it doesn't matter. He's a little like Steve Jobs in that he thinks very, very differently. And a lot of what he wanted to do, or a lot of what he did, if you buy into his biography, is based on him. I'm not suggesting that Steve Jobs was as egocentric as maybe Jack Sparrow is, but he's still a very different person. And you couldn't have an organisation that survived for more than 6 months if everybody in the team was like that. If everybody in the Black Pearl was Captain Jack Sparrow, or pretty much the same as Captain Jack, they wouldn't get anywhere. So I think that idea of diversity, which goes back to your point, is about maybe we need to be having conversations with the other pirates on board, because everybody knows something that I don't. So for Jack Sparrow, having a first mate or a COO or a deputy managing director, whatever title you want to give them, is quite different. It's hugely important. But I do like that idea of diversity, and how do we get everybody? How do we engage everybody on the team to discuss where we are and where we might want to go? And then we can also think about, well, who are the role models that we, other than Keith Richards. Sorry, Keith. Yeah, I know you're listening because you are a regular listener. We love you very, very much. Thank you, by the way. But who can we learn from in that role model sort of space that's going to help us move ahead?
Yeah.
And we've talked about the code, but the code it's really just guidelines, isn't it? I mean, that's the line they keep throwing out. It's just guideline. So yes, there is a code, the policies, procedures, legislation, whatever you want to put around your organisation. This is what we do, but it's also got to work for the majority. And you see that, well, we're not going to go into the cave against Barbosa because we're not going to hang around because it's just guidelines. But they come back to and rescue Captain Jack Sparrow at the end of the first one. There's something underpinning the way we operate as a group that sets us on our path. Now, there are going to be times when we have to maneuver around it or not adhere strictly to it, but we still come back to that core set of values. And that's, again, if you're looking at role models, you've got to work out what your core set of values are. And then you go looking for the people to be the role model to help you support those. Hopefully you got the right values.
Yeah, great insight there, John. I love that thinking and like how that sort of ties it all together in some ways, which is that once you've kind of got your values, then your role models can even be just assigned to certain values that you have, and then that can help build the sort of picture of what you're trying to build, and using the whole team in that way and realizing how much when you all come together under the same ideas, how much stronger you are. I think all great insights there. Love it. Well, I think we've pretty much covered a lot of what we wanted to talk about here today, but let's jump into some final thoughts here, Graham. So, Graham, I'm going to start with you. Did you have any sort of final thoughts today on the concept of role models and what our Pirates of the Caribbean Black Pearl, now that they're facing less cargo coming through the Caribbean, what they should do?
I think shift from pirates to pilots, given that most of the cargo is now, see what I did there? Sorry, I apologise now. I like the point that John made earlier about the level of thinking that got us to here as a business on the Black Pearl is not going to get us to where we want to go. Nothing fails like success, I think, was the phrase that John used, and he's absolutely correct. So I think just having the courage when things are going really well to ask the question, how do we disrupt what we're doing to make it better or to make us better, whatever that means for the organisation. Doesn't necessarily mean growth more staff, more revenue, more profit, but better is whatever better is. But having that conversation sooner rather than waiting until we've gone off the cliff and started a nosedive, and it's like, well, if we don't fix this inside 3 months, or the boat is literally going to sink and we'll all be treading water. So for me, I think that's the biggie. If you're on the black boat, don't wait until things have stalled and there's no wind and we're marooned in the middle of an ocean to realise that we should have done something different. And to your point, Des, if I can, just pinch up everyone else's ideas, bring everybody on board into the conversation.
Perfect. Well, love that, Graham. And you know what? That's exactly what we wanted to say. The cameo, for those watching the video, I think this is an episode you can't miss the video for. I'm afraid to say, if you are listening, definitely jump over to Spotify or YouTube. You can check it out there. There's some great video elements there. And thank you, Graham, for that and bringing the topic today in the setting. Awesome. John, did you have any final thoughts on today's conversation about the Pirates of the Caribbean expanding their business now that there's less cargo and the concept of role models?
Yeah, look, I remember in the movie, Barbossa is talking to, or he's fighting with Jack Sparrow, and at one point he goes, what's the point of this? You can't kill us. We can't die. And there have been many, many companies over the years, whether it be BlackBerry or Kodak, for example, who have had that attitude of, we're the best of what we do. We don't need to evolve. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And, oh, look, we're out of business. So if you have the attitude that, what's the point of this? You can't kill us. You need to change your attitude, because eventually they are able to be killed, and they do die. And if we're going to then work on the Black Pearl and go from pirates to pilots, then we need to start the thinking of what do we need to do to get our people to that level. And there's a lot of training or a lot of preparation that needs to occur, and do we need to be pilots, or do we need to be more like J.D. Cooper, and jump on a plane, hijack it and steal the money and jump out in a parachute and never be found again? What do we want to do? Do we want to be part of the Luftwaffen fucking thing where they stole millions and millions of dollars off a plane at the airport? And again, money, not all the money's recovered. So what is that next step? And it's got to be prepared for and planned in whatever form it takes.
Well, John, there's a couple of things I got to say there. First of all, great summary, and I think that they definitely don't want to be Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Blackberry. That's not on the mix, but I was going to say, I love that at the end there you actually gave them some solid tips on what to actually plan as operations.
For sure. There's plenty of examples of piracy. Become a politician. Well, president of a country, I don't know.
Absolutely. Right? Well, another option I've got here, John, I think Graham nailed the pun better than me here today, but I had another option. If they wanted to expand their sort of operations and they thought, let's think about something that we do all the time, which is climbing up the sort of ladders and what have you and sort of being active. Well, why not go from Pirates of the Caribbean to Pilates of the Caribbean?
There you go.
And so that would
fitness industry.
That's it. You're in the sunny weather of the Caribbean. Why not get a stretch in while you're on holiday? So anyway, we've got many options there. I think each of us in our last answer really gave off some good options. Pilots of the Caribbean, John with actual operation tactics, and me with Pilates of the Caribbean. So great stuff there. Thank you both, John and Graham, for a great episode. I want to thank all of our listeners. I think, you know what, Graham, you've inspired me. I think we've got to have a name for our listeners, and I think they should be learners. So we want to thank all our learners. It's a Magical Learning Podcast. What do you think? I think that's not too bad.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And we should always be learning.
That's it. Absolutely. So we want to thank all our learners that have been listening, sharing. We're probably, by the time this is out, over 11,000 subs on YouTube. So like I said, I've mentioned many times this episode, if you aren't watching this on YouTube, I highly recommend at least checking it out there. But otherwise, thank you, everybody. And as always, have a magical week.